I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anybody says. J.D. Vance did not kill the Pope. Here, you know what? There's a lot of things I never thought I would have to clarify in my life. There's a lot of things that I go, let me be clear. But that's not one of them I ever thought I would have to. I never thought in a million years I would have to start a show by saying, guys, just hear me out on this. J.D. Vance did not kill the Pope. And I know that that's a common belief. I know that a lot of people are out there saying that kind of thing, but it's not true. J.D. Vance he would never do that. He would never do that to a Pope or well, I'm not going to say to him. I mean, he is a Marine, so he is trained in warfare. And, you know, if it was between like his family and somebody else, I know for a fact he would do what needs to be done. But I'm saying he did not take out Pope Francis. Pope Francis died of natural causes. And we'll get, listen, we're going to get to all, there's so much to get to today. But it is sad that Pope Francis died yesterday, or today, I guess. It's interesting because it was Monday in Italy, but I think it was actually still Easter here in the United States of America. I'm not really sure. I guess depending on where you are in the world, it could be any particular time. But apparently, according to Vatican City time, it was Monday morning. Pope Francis died after an Easter ceremony. He went out on the balcony. If you've never been to the Vatican or Vatican City or, you know, St. Peter's, whatever, it really is fascinating. I went years ago as a teenager when Pope John Paul II was still, well, the Pope. And you go out there, and what happens is the Pope comes out on his little papal balcony and he blesses the entire crowd. And thousands and thousands of faithful just hang out underneath the balcony. And if you want something to be blessed, this is the best thing about the Vatican. If you want something to be blessed by the Pope, then you can hold it up and the Pope will bless it. And then you say, oh my gosh, I have this rosary that was blessed by the Pope, or I have my family Bible, which was blessed by the Pope, or I have, you know, some kind of trinket that was blessed by the Pope. And here's an even better thing. If you don't happen to have anything that you want the Pope to bless or that the Pope's going to bless, they have a gift shop. So you can go and you can buy all kinds of stuff. And in fact, I have a rosary that was blessed by the Pope, by Pope John Paul II. I have some coins, some Vatican coins, which were blessed by the Pope. And it's really handy. So if you forget something, if you're like, oh, I don't have anything to get blessed, you can go to the gift shop and they'll bless it for you. But Pope Francis came out and he said the Easter blessing and he said a few words to whomever was there. He met with J.D. Vance yesterday, the day before he passed away. He met with J.D. Vance at the Vatican, and this was all part of his big trip. He had a big state trip to Italy, and he met with Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister, and he met with the Pope, and he went to St. Peter's Basilica, and he went to the Sistine Chapel. And here he is. And he said, the Pope was clearly very ill when I met with him, but I was very pleased to have met with him. And then think about J.D. Vance. I mean, this is like the last world leader that ever came in contact with the Pope. And there he is getting he got a little gift bag. It looks like some kind of special things. And then he got some, like a Vatican tie. And because he probably blessed again by the Pope, because that's what the Pope does. But this morning, President Donald Trump came out, and he, right before the Easter egg roll, he made a proclamation in honor of Pope Francis, who passed away, like I said, right after Easter.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, and a very happy Easter to everyone. It was a beautiful day yesterday, and it's a beautiful day today. We don't have to worry about sunburn, but looks like it's not going to be raining. It's going to be really something special. 42,000 people are expected all throughout the day, and it's an honor to have you. I just signed an executive order putting the flags of our country, all of them, all federal flags and state flags, at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis. So he was a good man, worked hard, he loved the world, and it's an honor to do that. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is some band. I've heard this band actually indirectly for 4 years and very directly now for 4.5. And I like the direct method even better. But the Marine Corps band is very, very special. Thank you very much. What a great job. Thank you.
Okay, so he's thanking the Marine Corps band, who, by the way, the Marine Corps band, they kill it, man. They're amazing. They're really They're one of all the bands. They're one of my favorite. They're one of my favorite official federal marching bands. But he came out there and said, "Look, I just signed a proclamation. All the flags at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis, federal flags, state flags. We're gonna honor the man because look, he did work hard. He was very faithful. He did believe in what he believed. He did rub some people in the Catholic Church the wrong way. There were a lot of people that thought he was a little too progressive." That he strayed a little bit from the regular or the traditional Catholic sentiment or ideas or traditions. But, look, that's the thing. The Pope is chosen by God through the Council of the Cardinals and yada, yada, yada. And now what happens is the Council of Cardinals, I don't know if you saw the movie, was Conclave, which almost won an Academy Award. The Academy Award almost went to a movie about Catholicism and the Pope, but instead it went to a porno about a stripper who has sex with a young Russian guy for money. So, those were that kind of shows you where Hollywood's head is at, isn't it? Well, we have this amazing film about the Vatican and about choosing the next Pope, and it's all about religion, and it could really be, it could be really be something that over 1 billion Catholics get excited about. Or we have this porno about this stripper girl who just, has sex with a lot of people. Maybe we'll make that one Best Picture. I digress. So now they're going to go ahead and they're going to choose who the next Pope is going to be. And, it's interesting. It's not as exciting as, say, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's political campaign. There's not going to be any garbage trucks. There's not going to be cardinals working the McDonald's drive-through, trying to figure out who's next in line. What happens basically is the Council of Cardinals gets together and they pray and they argue, I guess, and they come together and then they try to make a decision. And then if they can decide on who the Pope is, there's white smoke that comes out of the smoke, the chimney. There at the Vatican. If not, it's gray or black smoke, and that means they got to go back and try again. But the question is, where is the next Pope going to come from? Because Pope Francis was the first Pope from the Americas. He was from Latin America, but he was still from the Americas. He was from South America. And we're wondering, will we ever get an American Pope? Probably not this time around. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I don't think we're gonna get it the next time around. But here's the New York Post. The New York Post. Hang on, let me pull this in a little bit. Let me pull this in a little bit closer. The New York Post writes, here are the top cardinals who could replace Pope Francis after the conclave. The next pontiff could come from Africa, Italy, or Sri Lanka, possibly even America, but it's likely that whoever is elected to follow Pope Francis, who died Monday at age 88, will nudge the Catholic Church back to the ideological center, experts said. During Francis's 12-year reign, leading the world's 1.4 billion Catholics, the late Pope's support for LGBTQ Catholics and suppression of the traditional Latin Mass were among moves that rankled conservatives in the church. Now, whoever is elected will be a centrally conservative disposition after 12 years of Pope Francis stirring things up, said Cernheld James, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Francis changed College of Cardinals within 20 days of the Pope's death. A conclave consisting of 120 cardinals out of the 138 princes of the church who are under age 80 can vote will gather at the Vatican to pick his replacement. 4 daily ballots will be held until a successor is picked. After 30 ballots, the top 2 candidates will be the only ones allowed. Whoever gets a 2/3 majority will become the next Pope. Briscoe said Francis completely reshaped the makeup of the College of Cardinals, the newer members of which were extremely familiar with each other. The late pontiff extended the tenure of Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, 91, as dean of the college, and Briscoe said he might have a behind-the-scenes influence on the proceedings, given his knowledge of the other cardinals, old and new. So they have this little breakdown of the 252 cardinals worldwide who are now all headed. They're all headed over to Europe. They're going to go to Italy. The smoke signals twice daily. Smoke rises from the chapel chimney. Black smoke means no decision. White smoke signals a new pope has been elected. It's just, it's one of those things. It happens every dozen years or so, depending on how long these popes last. But the interesting thing is, again, that you've got to that you've got all of these popes, or all of these cardinals rather, who are going to be making the decision, and each and every one of the people who's up for grabs is going to be far more conservative than Pope Francis, which is going to be very interesting for the rest of the world. And look, it wasn't just Catholics that were noticing how the liberal or how progressive Pope Francis was. It was all world leaders. And I think a lot of world leaders played into it too. I think a lot of world leaders were really excited by it. But either way, it looks like, and I'm not going to say the new Pope's going to be MAGA. I'm just going to say he's going to be more MAGA than the old Pope. Hey, speaking of MAGA, and again, JD Vance had absolutely nothing to do. You know, the left is so funny. The left is so funny. JD Vance goes to see the Pope. The Pope dies, and they immediately blame JD Vance for the Pope's death. It's just the weirdest thing ever. It's just the weirdest thing ever. But one of the things that they don't blame, the right people for is when Chris Van Hollen went to El Salvador to meet with Abrego Garcia. Everybody asked the question, well, wait a minute, who's paying for this trip? Who's paying for this trip? Who's paying for Chris Van Hollen to go down to El Salvador, fly first class or whatever he's like, stay in a nice hotel? Who's paying for this guy to do all of that? And the question was finally answered by Chris Van Hollen, who confirmed that yes, taxpayer dollars were used for this trip. He confirmed it with Shannon Breen.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah, so there we go. Taxpayer dollars, yes, like every other trip. Although every other trip, I think, has some kind of important ramifications for Americans. If he were going down to El Salvador to make sure that this guy wasn't coming back, that to me would be like an important trip. If he was like, I got to take a trip to El Salvador because I'm worried that they're going to let this guy go, send him back to Maryland and put Americans in danger. If that was the case, then maybe we could say, all right, well, you could probably seems like something you could do with an email. But at the same time, well, that's fine. But no, this was a taxpayer funded trip for several days that I know somebody, I guess in the Senate must have cleared it. It must have been Mitch McConnell. I'm not sure who's in charge of clearing these trips for these senators to fly around and have margaritas with gang members. I don't know whose job that is. I don't know what committee that falls under. Clearly somebody in the Senate has control over that, or somebody in the Senate, it's their decision to be made. And somebody made the decision that it was okay for Chris Van Hollen to do this. But he went down there on your dime and he was drinking margaritas. He was having a gay old time. And he's now back. And guess what's happening? Now that he's back, he's doing all of the Sunday shows and he's using all of the, the taxpayer funded trip that sent him to El Salvador to meet with Abrego Garcia is now making him kind of politically famous. Whereas he was once one of 100 senators. Now he's the only senator that's appearing on every Sunday morning talk show. He's the only senator that other people are talking about. He's the only senator that's popping up on X all the time. He's the only senator that Donald Trump is publicly opposing. And that brings with it a certain amount of notoriety. And you have to imagine that this guy is really enjoying the notoriety he's getting, again, for a trip that was paid for by you.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Yeah, like every other trip I've taken to waste taxpayer dollars, this one was also a big waste of taxpayer money. So this guy is almost openly campaigning and using taxpayer dollars to do it, because I imagine that with all this newfound fame and notoriety that Chris Van Hollen is experiencing, I imagine that he's going to potentially seek some higher office. Remember, the Democrats have no clear leader. The Democrats have Kamala Harris, they've got Pete Buttigieg, they've got old as the hills Bernie Sanders, they've got AOC, and a lot of folks don't think that any of those people can win. First of all, Bernie Sanders would be in his 90s if he did win and became president. AOC would barely be in her 40s if she won and became president. And also nobody likes her. Pete Buttigieg is, Pete Buttigieg. And of course, Gavin Newsom, nobody trusts. Plus, he destroyed the state of California. So Chris Van Hollen may be looking around going, I'm an old white dude. I fit the bill of president of the United States. I'm not as I'm not as, I guess controversial as AOC. I'm not as old as Bernie Sanders. I'm not a socialist. I'm from Maryland, which is a blue state, but again, not a state. I could probably deliver a lot of Democrats and maybe a handful of Republicans. Maybe if I take a trip to El Salvador, have the taxpayers pay for it, I can then go on all the Sunday morning talk shows, get a name for myself, and become a viable candidate in 2028. I believe that this was a campaign maneuver by him to give himself some street cred when it comes to running for president. And I imagine I'm not the only one. And depending on which show you watched yesterday, you saw various different reactions. The fact that Shannon Bream pressed him on who was paying for this was great. But a couple of other people that I guess he thought were going to be friendlier to him pressed him on a couple of other questions. One of them was, did you ask this guy, Abrego Garcia, who it's been reported is an MS-13 gang member, did you ask him, hey, are you in fact an MS-13 gang member? That's what happened when he went to CNN, and listen to what he said.
President Trump says that some of Abrego Garcia's tattoos signify that he's a member of MS-13. In 2019, police alleged a confidential informant claimed that Abrego Garcia was an active MS-13 member. His wife and his attorney deny that, of course. Can you say with absolute certainty that he is not, nor has he ever been a member of the MS-13 gang? And did you ask him point blank?
Well, Dana, what Donald Trump is trying to do here is change the subject. The subject at hand is that he and his administration are defying a court order to give Abrego Garcia his due process rights. They are trying to litigate on social media what they should be doing in the courts. They need to put up or shut up in the courts. Let me tell you, and I decided to write this down so I could be absolutely accurate as to what federal district court Judge Zinnes said about these allegations by the Trump administration. Quote, no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or any terrorist activity has been presented to the court. That's where to litigate this. Mm-hmm. It's been litigated in many other places. So I'm not going to get into the details because the whole purpose of our court system is for them to adjudicate these things, not for Donald Trump to go off on social media.
Yeah, you're right. They have not, there hasn't been a court hearing for them to put forward evidence in the first place, which is your whole point. But since you were the one person to have met with him, and since this is a thing, you say on social media, it's what we hear from Donald Trump and Republicans every day, all day long, you didn't ask him?
I didn't ask him that because I know what his answer is.
You didn't ask him? She said, wait, you didn't ask him? You were right there. You didn't say, hey, I noticed these tattoos on your hand. Does that mean that you're a member of the MS-13 gang? Because these tattoos sure make it look like you're a member of the MS-13 gang. Even Donald Trump. Donald Trump held up a photo on where? Let me see it here. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Donald Trump held up a photo on he was in the Oval Office. Here it is. He held up a photo of Abrego Garcia's hand. And on the photo, you can see it says MS-13. It's the gang member, the marijuana leaf, the smiley face, the cross, the skull. I don't even know. Again, I don't know what these are, but Donald Trump had his investigators, had his professionals, had his, the people that are in the know, the people that ICE and the DOJ, Tom Homan. These are folks that understand how these gang symbols work. And they know that Abrego Garcia is an MS-13. And Dana Bash seems to know it, but Chris Van Hollen, that guy didn't even ask because he goes, well, I know what his answer would have been. Notice he didn't say, I know his answer wouldn't have been no. He said, I know what his answer would have been. There's a lot of signs that point to this guy being a gang member, everybody knowing it, and nobody wanting to, it's like what do you do? You want plausible deniability. So Chris Van Hollen not asking him if he's an MS-13 gang member gives him plausible deniability. So now, if he brings him back, which hopefully he won't, or if it's ever found out that he is an MS-13 gang member, Chris Van Hollen can say, well, I didn't know he was an MS-13 gang member. I never asked him. He never told me he was. There was no proof in any of the courts that he was. No, because he hasn't been to court. So the fact of the matter is that he's purposely trying to avoid the question of whether or not this guy was an MS-13 gang member so that he can always say, I had no firsthand knowledge that he was an MS-13 gang member. His wife, by the way, gave a little bit of a clue to his gang membership when she was talking to Michael Strahan on ABC News. Michael Strahan, and to give him props, asked her flat out about these 2 times she went to court to get a restraining order because allegedly this guy beat her up. She didn't like getting beat up by this guy, so she went to court. She said, I need a restraining order against him. Happened a couple times. And when asked about it, she froze.
I have to ask it. You did take out a temporary order of protection against your husband in 2021. Were you in fear of your husband?
My husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Okay, and I'm not going to push on that apparently, but how much hope?
I don't know why he wasn't going to push her on that, but she goes, look, was your husband, are you afraid for your life? And she goes, my husband's alive. That's all I can say. That's a woman who was told not to say anything bad about her husband. I don't know if she was threatened by, maybe a gang. I don't know if she was threatened by her husband. I don't know if she was threatened by Democrats. I don't know if she was threatened by all of the above. But somebody told this woman, look, you better not say anything bad about your husband. You want to get through this on the other side? Maybe she got threatened with something. Who knows? But apparently she's not saying anything bad about her husband anymore, even though we know for a fact she twice went to court to get a protective order and an injunction against him because she was, afraid that he was going to hit her. Whole thing's really weird. Whole thing. And Chris Van Hollen, like I said, this guy's he's just loving life. He's going around, even though he's not, asking the right questions, he's going around and he's telling stories. He's talking about all of the things that he did. Here he is. Here he is talking to somebody or other about what Abrego Garcia is feeling and the trauma that he went through.
So what did Abrego Garcia tell you? He told me about the trauma he had been experiencing, both in terms of the abduction and the fact that he was originally sent to CCOT, which is this notorious prison.
Yeah, we've seen the
He told me
images.
how much he missed his wife and his kids. He specifically mentioned his 5-year-old boy who has autism because that boy had been in the car with him when U.S. agents had stopped them and handcuffed him and then taken him away. So he described all that, and he told me that he had moved recently to a new prison facility. So those are some of the highlights.
Oh, those are the highlights. The highlights were him talking about his trauma. The highlights were him talking about his autistic son who watched him get handcuffed. Those are highlights? Is that what he just referred to them as? But he's talking about the trauma. This is trauma. He's so concerned that this MS-13 gang member who allegedly beat his wife twice to the point where she went and sought out protective custody. This guy is going through some trauma. What about all the trauma he's caused? What about all the trauma other illegal aliens have caused? In fact, he was, I don't know if he brought it up or if he was asked about it, but there's a big thing about Rachel Morin, who was killed by an illegal criminal. Somebody that was brought to this country illegally, somebody who was not supposed to be in this country, somebody who was a gang member, somebody who killed her, did horrible things to her and shoved her body in a drain pipe. And her mother, Patty Morin, was at the White House last week, met with Caroline Leavitt, came to the press briefing, met with President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. This was a big deal. This is something that a lot of people are concerned with because this is another Maryland girl, another Maryland woman. He always calls it Abrego Garcia a Maryland man, but this was a Maryland woman who is dead because an illegal alien took her life. Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien that Chris Van Hollen is spending your money to try to return to the United States of America. And Chris Van Hollen said, look, I don't get why everyone keeps talking about Rachel Morin. She's got no bearing on any of this.
I'm not sure why Abrego Garcia's rights should be denied based on an awful murder that he had absolutely nothing to do with.
I don't understand why he thinks his rights are being denied. I also don't understand what he thinks all of this is for. Stephen Miller had a great diatribe against the media last week, and Stephen Miller explain to everybody in the media, all these reporters who don't do their due diligence, all these reporters who have no real idea what's going on. They're not really sure what the real story is, nor do they care to investigate it. But Stephen Miller said to them, look, do you understand what would even happen? Do you understand what would even happen if Abrego Garcia came back to the United States of America? The guy has a deportation order. There's the fact of the matter is he's going to be deported one way or the other. If you bring him back to the United States of America, he's still an illegal. He's still going to be deported. And what's going to happen is they're going to send him right back to El Salvador. So Chris Van Hollen is now flying to El Salvador to try to spring this guy out of prison, bring him back to the United States of America, where he's just going to be deported again. Or if he's not deported to El Salvador, he'll be deported to some other country that is willing to take him. And Stephen Miller pointed out that could be a country like Egypt or Somalia or some other country where he would be worse off than being in El Salvador, which is, again, his home country. He is an El Salvadoran national. Why is it so hard for people to believe? He's not going to be allowed to stay in the United States of America after all of this investigation into his background, his MS-13, membership, or his backstory, the fact that he's here illegally, the fact that he has beaten his wife, all of these things. When you put it all together, nothing in the end keeps this man in the United States of America. Even if the White House facilitates his return, as they like to keep saying, even if the White House facilitates his return the way the Supreme Court said that they should, if Bukele says, all right, I'll let him out of prison, I'll put him on a plane, I'll send him back to you guys, he's not going to stay here. He's going to go somewhere else. It's all just pointless political theater. And the only person who seems to be benefiting is Senator Van Hollen. And Tom Homan is not happy at all with any of this.
What bothers me more than that is a U.S. Senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking in women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl overdose because of the open border. You got over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is an historic record. What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by an illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me.
Yeah, he's concerned about all the people, all the Americans that are dying, all the Americans that are getting attacked. He's not at all concerned about the illegals who are being deported. But now he's like, man, not only do I have to fight against all these sanctuary cities and everything else, I have to fight against this stupid senator who's flying around the world trying to save these people when they shouldn't be in this country in the first place. Van Hollen, by the way, tried to call him an American, or accidentally almost referred to him as an American citizen.
I think at some point, the president of El Salvador realized it was looking really bad to have this person who had been absconded from America, from the streets of Maryland, in one of their prisons.
Yeah, he almost called him an American, and he realized, oh, that would have been blasphemy. That would have totally undone all of the good he thinks he's done to this point. Listen, before we get to there's another scandal brewing about the Bidens. Just when you thought the Bidens were going to go away forever, now they're back, and they've got a brand new scandal. They got a couple of them, actually, that we have to uncover. But first, before we get to any of that, I want to remind you to please subscribe to this channel throughout the week. Monday through Friday, we always come to you live. We come to you live at 1 p.m. We're posting videos all the time. There's always new content, and not to mention the podcasts. Over the weekend, I posted a special Easter message. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to that. But wherever you're listening, if you're on YouTube or Rumble or any of those live streaming platforms, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you're listening to our podcast page, definitely make sure that you hit the subscribe or the follow button so that every single day you can get the information and the content that you need. You can get the information and the content you want and desire. You can hear the news, the truth, the real news, the real truth, right from me. And you can be part of what I think is one of the best shows on the internet. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications too. The notification bell is super important, especially if you, if you run around, if you're busy throughout the day. I get it. We're all busy throughout the day. So hit that notification bell. That way you'll get notified every single time that we go live, which again is, well, it's a lot. So Joe Biden was celebrating Easter with his family. I guess they were at Rehoboth or Wilmington. I don't know where they were. But Joe Biden and his family got together. He's got a big family, and they were getting together for Easter. And they took a video, or I guess they took a photo of them on the steps. There was photo and video. But real quick, let me just pull this up here quickly, because this is something that has been kind of percolating over the weekend, and that a lot of people are really curious about. Here it is. Here's the photo. All right. This is a photo of Joe Biden and his family at Easter sitting on the steps. And as you can see, he's got all the families here. All the Bidens are here. They're in their like post-church casual, Easter Sunday, let's play ball in the backyard kind of clothing. But then way in the back, okay, if you look way in the back, I don't know how close you can see it, is Joe Biden. He's way back there. This is Joe. Hold on, let me pull this up a little bit. Let me see if I can. Let me go over here. No, hang on. I want to do it this way. There we go. If you look right there in the back, you can see old Joe. And there's a couple weird things about this photo. First of all, Joe Biden is in a suit. Okay. Really totally overdressed. Everyone else is wearing sneakers and jeans and khakis, and they're all t-shirts, that kind of thing. But for whatever reason, Joe Biden is still in his suit, sitting in the back, not next to his wife. He's not sitting next to Jill. And also, as probably the oldest Biden and the patriarch, or the closest thing they have to a patriarch, you'd think he'd be more front and center. But no, he's in there in the back. Also, it looks like the back row is sitting on the top step. And Joe Biden, the way he's placed there, it would make it very difficult for him to have his legs. I mean, it's just, this is just clearly the most photoshopped photo ever since Princess Kate. This is clearly the most photoshopped photo we've ever seen since Princess Kate released that video. But this was like an official photo or whatever. This is something they released, and they said it was on Joe Biden's account, and it said something like Happy Easter. But there's just so many things pointing to this. Also, let me show you what's going on with his fingers. Joe Biden's fingers. I guess they wanted it to look like, yeah, look at this. They wanted it to look like supernatural, not supernatural like a ghost, but look, they wanted it to look natural. So they put fingers on the back of this kid's neck. I guess we're supposed to believe that Joe Biden had his hand on this kid's neck awkwardly. And that's what we got here. Here it is, right? Let me see if I can, there it is right there. I think you can see that. So this is, I don't know. There's just too much weirdness going on with this official photo from Joe Biden's Easter. So Joe Biden in a suit in the back, not next to Jill. And then there's these weird fingers that are going on on this kid's back. The other thing is, check this out. This was a video supposedly taken by one of the Bidens. I'm not sure which one. Oh, why am I on Zoom? Hang on one second. Let me go back here. This is a photo taken by one of the Bidens. I'm not sure which one. Earlier in the day. Okay. And this was Joe Biden. Where is it? Here, this is Joe Biden on the same steps. Now, earlier in the day, Joe Biden was wearing jeans, and like you can kind of see he's wearing jeans and like a regular, shoes, regular sneaks, and like a pullover, like a half zip or something. Why is it that he decided to change into a suit for this photo when everyone else was still in their casual clothes? It just doesn't make any sense to anybody. And it's one of the, I guess it's one of the new conspiracy theories. What happened to Joe Biden? Where was Joe Biden when they were taking this family photo, and whose decision was it to just leave him out of it and say, you know what we'll do? We'll just Photoshop him. We'll just Photoshop him back into it later on. I think that it's really interesting to me in this day and age that people still do this and think they can get away with it. because there are so many. I mean, you don't even have to be an amateur sleuth anymore. You can just be like a regular person and look at this photo and figure out that this clearly is not, this guy's not in this photo. This is clearly not something where where Joe Biden was present. Also, he's turned the other way. Everyone's looking straight at the camera. He's turned kind of to like the left. It's really weird. If you're in a suit, okay? If you're in a suit, are you going to sit on dirty steps like that? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think what they did was, here's the smart thing they did. They chose this photo because it shows the shadow on the same side of his face. A lot of times what happens is when they use a photo or when they Photoshop something, the shadow will give it away because the photo they use is turned into the sun and everyone else is turned away from the sun, or vice versa. So I think that's what they did. They tried to find a photo where the shadow matched up. But at the end of the day, it just looks totally ridiculous. And again, I'm not really sure 100% why they would do this. Here's the actual caption. We wish everyone celebrating today a peaceful and joyful Easter. Also, Joe Biden didn't write that. We all know that. We all know that for a fact. Speaking of Easter, President Donald Trump had a couple of jabs that he wanted to make at Joe Biden at the Easter egg roll, which is fun because look, the Easter egg roll, it's a tradition. It's a tradition at the White House. It's one of the fun traditions. It's where the president and the first lady get out. They get to hang with the kids and the Easter bunny and they roll Easter eggs around. And it's a fun way to cap off the holiday. And President Donald Trump, he came out and he said, we're honoring Jesus today and we're bringing religion back to the United States of America, which is great.
Speaking of special, Easter is special, and it's one of our favorite days. It's one of our favorite periods of time. We're honoring Jesus Christ, and we're going to honor Jesus Christ very powerfully throughout our lives, all throughout our lives, not just now, all throughout our lives. We're bringing religion back in America. We're bringing a lot of things back, but religion is coming back to America. That's why you see the kind of numbers that you're seeing, the spirit and the kind of numbers that you're seeing. So,
yeah, we're seeing lots of numbers. But we're bringing religion back. We're honoring Jesus. America will be religious again. Praise be to God. And Donald Trump wants everybody to know that. Donald Trump also wanted to remind everybody about the time the Easter Bunny had to lead Joe Biden away from a crowd of parents because he was spilling state secrets. He was telling stories. Do you remember that he was telling stories about things he shouldn't have been telling stories about? And the Easter Bunny, who we think was a Secret Service agent in disguise, had to haul him away. Well, here's Donald Trump with the Easter Bunny sharing that story.
Do you remember the bunny with Joe Biden? Remember? Do you remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out. Anyway, that was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden.
Yeah, this was, by the way, we have the video. This is the Easter Bunny during Joe Biden's reign, having to take him out. Yeah, that was the Easter Bunny saving the United States of America from their president. But Donald Trump said, "Look, we don't need to worry about that with Donald Trump. The Easter Bunny doesn't need to save me."
Do you remember the bunny with Joe Biden? Remember? Do you remember when the bunny took Joe Biden out? He's not taking Trump out. Anyway. That was a beautiful moment when the bunny saved Joe Biden.
Even the Easter Bunny is like a step up, isn't it? That Easter Bunny is way classier than Joe Biden's Easter Bunny was. One of the other things, though, it's really interesting to watch Donald Trump in these kinds of areas because, the media comes up, the press comes out, and they watch Donald Trump and they watch Melania. And Donald Trump was coloring with some kids and they were rolling Easter eggs and everyone was having a blast. It was so much fun. Donald Trump was honoring the Pope and talking about flags going to half-mast. And then, of course, the media comes out and they start asking him ridiculous questions about, Pete Hegseth getting fired as Secretary of Defense, which is the new rumor. That's the rumor du jour. The media now is trying to take out Pete Hegseth. They tried to take out Mike Waltz after the whole Signal Gate. That didn't work. They've been trying to go after various different members of Donald Trump's administration. None of it's working. And so now what they are doing is they're attacking Pete Hegseth. They put their sights on the Secretary of Defense. Couple reasons. Number one, the Signal story about the attack on the Houthis, which was a successful attack. But they claim again that there's more signal messages and there's more breaches of top secret clearance, and there's more problems with these people not, knowing who's on their text threads or their signal threads or whatever. And now all of a sudden, Pete Hegseth has to go because he's a vital, he's jeopardizing our national security, which seems really weird. But Donald Trump's like, look, that's not happening at all.
I mean, I hear they're doing that whole thing again. Here we go again. Just a waste of time. He is doing a great job.
Why do you still have confidence?
Because he's doing a great job. Ask the Houthis how he's doing. Ask the Houthis how much dysfunction there is. There's none. Pete's doing a great job. Everybody's happy with him. We have the highest recruitment numbers I think they've had in 28 years. No, he's doing a great job. It's just fake news. They just bring up stories. I guess it sounds like disgruntled employees. He was put there to get rid of a lot of bad people, and that's what he's doing. So you don't always have friends when you do that.
Yeah, you don't always. When you get rid of people, when you fire people, when you root out the evil and the leakers and the people that are there for the wrong reasons, guess what? They're not always happy with you. When you start doing that kind of thing, they don't always look at you as a friend after that. And so now you've got these former employees, they're leaving and they're spreading rumors and lies, and the media's picking up on it, and they're trying to discredit Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. And they asked Donald Trump flat out, do you still have confidence in him? And he goes, yeah. Ask the Houthis if he's doing a good job. The Houthis. I think he actually called them the Houthis.
I mean, I hear they're doing that whole thing again. Here we go again. Just a waste of time. He is doing a great job.
Why do you still have confidence?
Because he's doing a great job. Ask the Houthis how he's doing.
Ask the Houthis and the Blowfish. Ask Houthi and the Blowfish how Pete Hegseth is doing, and they'll tell you. You can't ask the Houthis, by the way, because they're dead. I mean, not all of them, but a good portion of them are dead because the Department of Defense took them out in an effort to protect ships in the Red Sea. American ships, cargo ships, military ships. He's protecting his soldiers, and Donald Trump's right about recruitment. Ever since Pete Hegseth came to the Department of Defense, enrollment and recruitment has been up. I mean, it's the enlisted numbers are insanity. They were down 50% at the end of Joe Biden's term, and I think they're up like 80% in some of various branches of the government. It's really phenomenal. And so all of these fake news narratives continue to unfold. And Donald Trump says, don't believe any of them. He's doing a great job. I have confidence in him. He's making the department safe again. He's rooting out the evildoers inside. He's doging the Department of Defense. And what you're going to see is a leaner, meaner, greener fighting machine. And of course you're going to make enemies along the way. And of course they're going to run to the media. And of course they're going to spread lies about you. But that's all just part of what happens. Speaking of lies, Jasmine Crockett. There's a couple funny videos here. Jasmine Crockett was, I guess, speaking at some kind of, I don't know what she was speaking at, but listen to what Jasmine Crockett says here.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that, because I am truly a black woman at the same time. So
that's Jasmine Crockett saying that she is a serious lawmaker. That's Jasmine Crockett saying that she is a serious lawmaker. You know what I realized I haven't done yet? I used to have a file of all the Joe Biden clips. It was every single Joe, and I still have it on, but I gotta make a Jasmine Crockett file. Because this woman, she's claiming she's a serious lawmaker. But let me just tell you how serious a lawmaker this woman is.
We in these hot ass Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
That is a serious lawmaker. Here's another one. Listen to this.
And if we continue to put people into office, and that even means some of our skinfolk who definitely are not our kinfolk, such as Byron Donalds, who are going to continue to say that, the fact that you sitting around talking about life was better under Jim Crow, is this because you don't understand history? or literally it's because you married a white woman and so you think that whitewashed you. I'm not really sure like what it is.
Well,
but
you
I
couldn't
need
even be married to a white woman under Jim
correct,
Crow.
correct. And it took Joy to call him out. So I'm like, bruh, like what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a serious lawmaker. There's another one here, I think.
Yeah, Sean, it is.
Oh no, that's Pam Bondi sending her a warning. Here it is.
Hey, Congresswoman, do you regret your earlier comments you made about Governor Greg Abbott?
That's her with a 12-year-old bodyguard. Who? There's another one that I thought I had. I don't know if I have it though. Anyway, you remember? There's a couple I can't play because they're profane. But she talked about Ted Cruz and how Ted Cruz needs to be hit. She talked about Elon Musk and how she wants Elon Musk taken down for her birthday over and over again. And now she's out there saying, y'all, check this out. I am a serious congressperson. And yes, I'm also a black woman. So if you mess around, you're going to find out. But you need to know that I am serious.
I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that because I am truly a black woman at the same time. So.
Yeah, so that's a serious lawmaker, Jasmine Crockett, who wants, but don't try her because she's also a black woman and she will, you were going to find out. I don't even really know. I'm not really 100% sure what that means, but she seems to be very confident in her assessment. The other thing that happened, and this is something that I don't know. I read it and I didn't think anything of it, but then all of a sudden there was a big to-do made about it on the internet, which is where everyone always makes the big to-dos. And I want to see if I can find it here. I want to make sure I have the actual. It's regarding Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem, supposedly somebody stole her bag or her pocketbook or something or other. And here it is. Here's the itemization of it. This is from Brianna Morello. Just in, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem's bag was stolen last night from a D.C. restaurant. The bag was holding $3,000 cash, driver's license, passport, DHS badge, makeup, checks, medication, and apartment keys. All were stolen. Footage being reviewed by Secret Service captured a white man in a surgical mask grabbing the bag and fleeing. So this is interesting to me because, again, I don't know what restaurant it was. But I feel like if you're the Department of Homeland Security secretary, you have better security. My first thought was, how does this even happen? How does she, and again, she's from South Dakota, pardon me. And in South Dakota, things are, it's a little easier going, you trust your neighbors a little bit more. Whenever you're in the big city, ladies and or gentlemen, if you carry a man purse, you want to make sure that your bag is secured. You always want to have it on your lap. You want to make sure it's across your body if you're walking down the street. You never get up from the table, go to the restroom and leave your bag. We had footage. In fact, when I worked in a restaurant in New York, it was at least once a month where a woman would drape her bag over her chair only to find out it was gone. And then we'd have to go back through the security footage and try to see if we could figure out who took it. It happened all the time. So when you're in a restaurant, especially in a big city like New York, Chicago, DC, I don't care who you are. You got to secure your bag. You keep it in your lap or you put it under the table. I know some women put it like between their feet, wherever. You can put it on the inside of the booth, but I don't know where it was. But that's neither here nor there. The thing that caught most people's attention was the fact that she had $3,000 cash on her. The bag was holding $3,000 cash, a driver's license, passport, DHS badge, makeup, checks, medication, and apartment keys. If I were Kristi Noem, here's what I'd be really freaked out about. I'd be freaked out about the apartment keys, although I imagine she can get a locksmith at her house pretty quickly. She is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. I think the DHS badge, also important. You got to get a new one of those and you got to make sure that the old one is turned off. Makeup, you can probably get at any drugstore she wears a lot of makeup, so I don't know how much was in there. Medication, I'm not sure what kind of medication. Hopefully it wasn't something that has a lot of street value, but a lot of folks are curious about the $3,000 cash and why she was carrying $3,000 cash. And again, I think this comes back to just a, country mouse versus city mouse kind of mentality. Because in the city mouse, you're always like, don't carry a lot of cash, just carry your credit card, yada, yada, yada. But in the country, cash is king. And when you're a conservative, you want to have some money. I like to carry, not $3,000 worth of cash, but as much as, a couple hundred here and there, just in case. You never know. Someone always told me, they said, when the stuff goes down and the grid fails, you want to make sure you have lots of cash on you, because when the doctor needs to remove the bullet, he's not going to take a check. And this is actually what somebody told me, because, it was a prepper friend of mine. And I said, why do you have to have a lot of cash? And he told me, he goes, look, if you get shot in the apocalypse, the doctor's not going to take a check. And I thought to myself, why am I getting shot in the apocalypse? And what doctor is like? I guess the narrative is the apocalypse happens, the grid goes down, I get my family and whatever, I bug out somewhere, I'm going into the woods or to some safe place that we've already scouted out. All of a sudden, some low life or some less than moral person crosses my path. There's some kind of gunfight. I get shot. My family rushes me to a doctor, and the doctor says, I'll only take cash, 500 large, or he dies, right? Bleeds out right here. I guess that's what happens. I don't know why the doctor has that accent, but I guess that's the scenario that my friend built up in his mind. So I know that that's why preppers have a lot of cash, so that the bullets can be extracted from their bodies by doctors. But I don't know why Kristi Noem's carrying. It's a good point. It's a good point. Why is Kristi Noem carrying $3,000 cash in her pocketbook? I don't know. But I guess her book sold well. The book where she talked about shooting the puppy, I guess that the book sold pretty well because she's carrying around a lot of cash. Incidentally, though, by the way, too, they're going to catch this guy. And I don't know if this guy just didn't know Kristi Noem, who she was. Maybe he thought she was like a TV star because she's on TV all the day and she's got the long hair and the makeup. But it's not going to end well. If you steal $3,000 cash and all this other stuff from one of Donald Trump's cabinet members, it's just not going to, I know it's not going to end well for you at all. One last thing, speaking of lots of makeup, Nancy Mace, who I guess is going to be the next governor of South Carolina, or wants to be the next governor of South Carolina. She's currently still in the House of Representatives representing the Myrtle Beach area. So she was at I guess it was a drugstore. Here she is. Nancy Mace, some unhinged lunatic, a man wearing Daisy Dukes at a makeup store, got in my face today. Dems are nuts, so I went off, and I won't be backing down. I hold the line 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Try me. So here's what happened with Nancy Mace and this Daisy Duke wearing dude at the store. Hang on, let me see if I can play this here so you can see the whole thing. Yeah, here it is.
I do them every year.
Every year.
You want to keep going?
Are you gonna do any more this
Do you want
year?
to keep going and keep harassing me?
I'm asking if
You
you're
could
gonna
have gone
any
to
more
a
town halls
dozen
this year.
town halls last year.
I asked if you're doing any more this year. It was one simple question.
Yeah.
Are you doing a town
I've
hall
already
this year?
done one. I'll do
Are
plenty
you doing
more.
any more this year? It was a simple question.
You're always invited.
Okay, sweet. Well, look
And
out
by
for
the
an
way,
actual invitation
I
for the
voted
next
for
one.
gay marriage twice.
What does that have to do
so
with me?
I'm just saying, it has to everything to do with you.
Do you think everything about me has to do with gay marriage?
I do,
That's
absolutely.
your first stance when you
Yep.
speak with me?
Absolutely.
There's no other humane
If you want to get in my
conversation you
face
can have
about town
me?
halls, you should have shown
There's
up to
no
one
other
last
humane
year.
thing you can talk about me just saying, oh, I support gay marriage.
Yeah,
That's the
because you're
only thing
getting
you
in
have
my
to
face
say.
about a town hall. You
Oh, I
could have
just
gone
asked you
last
one
year.
simple question from right
Would you
over
like
here
me?
is if you have any plans to have more town halls this year.
I have town
That was
halls
one
every year.
question.
I have over a dozen
Okay.
every year.
Great. That was my entire question. You didn't have to go
Yeah.
into the spiel about
You
everything
could
else
have you could have come to any of them last year.
Okay. And I'm
I had
asking you
over a
about this year, not
dozen.
2024. But
Where
we're
were
in
you the year
right?
before that?
Okay.
Or the year before that?
It was a simple
Oh,
question. I
because you
asked
know
if
what?
have
Because
any
you
more that
people
you're
on the
going to
left
this
are
year or not.
crazy.
So I'm
You're
on the left.
absolutely fucking crazy.
I'm absolutely fucking
You are.
crazy.
And get out of my face.
You're insane.
Goodbye.
You're insane.
Fuck you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. I didn't realize there were all those wordy dirts. Sorry. I apologize. I meant to cut it off sooner. That's Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace, and she is running for governor of South Carolina. Incidentally, I don't think that guy is going to vote for her. I think she may have lost that vote from that guy. But here's the thing. All I can understand is from what I get from this is she was shopping for makeup. This guy in the Daisy Dukes was also shopping for makeup. He asked her about a town hall meeting. She said, I have lots of town hall meetings. It escalated from there. She mentioned how she supported gay marriage. I guess he was mad that she assumed he was gay. although I feel like it's probably a safe assumption. And then the F-bomb started flying around. I don't know. That right there, though, is that's something she posted, by the way, on her own page. So we'll see. I've tried to get her on the show a couple times, and I'll be honest with you. The first time I wrote to, I wanted to get Nancy Mace on the show. The first time I wrote to Kat Kamek, her communications director, I said, hey, do you have communications information for Nancy Mace? And she said, I'll try to find it for you. And then I wrote to another friend of mine who worked in the press office for then, Congressman Mike Waltz. And I said, hi, I've been trying to get in touch with Nancy Mace. Do you have her information? And he said, it's difficult because she keeps changing communications directors. And I said, oh, really? And they go, yeah, she goes through a lot of staff. So I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, I've been unable to successfully get her on the show, but I'm not for a lack of trying, and I will continue to try because, again, she's somebody that I would really enjoy talking to, I feel like. And I feel like if that's something I can make happen, I definitely want to make it happen because I think it would be monumentally entertaining. Hey, speaking of monumentally entertaining, I hope that you were monumentally entertained by today's show. And I'd like to remind you to please subscribe to this podcast. Make sure that you've set the notifications, you're liking, you're sharing, and you're continuing to follow us because we will continue to bring you new information every single day. There's always going to be something new. It won't necessarily be regarding the death of a pope every day. It won't necessarily be Donald Trump belittling Joe Biden at an Easter egg roll. Who knows I don't know what it's going to be from day to day, but I know that I'll be right here with my microphone or my video camera to report it to you. And I hope that you decide to join us. The best thing to do, like I said, is to subscribe, to like, to share, to set the notifications. If you're listening to the podcast, you definitely want to make sure that you are following the podcast page so that Apple iTunes and Spotify and whomever else, you want to make sure that they are every single day delivering this information to you so that every time you get in your car or you go to the gym or you put in your earbuds, you can hear this show and you can be brought up to date and we can continue to inform and inspire and enlighten and tell you the truth and show you who's coming after you and how they're coming after you and how you can protect yourself and why you need to protect yourself. We are all in this together and we're continuing to grow our numbers every single day because the battle rages on. We must continue to fight so that we can win and save